Hey, what's going on, audit friends? Today, did you know that your money can disappear in a snap? That's what we're talking about today. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Friday Fraudster podcast. Join them as they discuss sad, funny, and sometimes disturbing fraud stories. Be sure to catch past episodes on your favorite podcasting platform or go to www.fridayfraudster.com.
All right, guys, welcome to episode number 138. Can you believe that we're at episode number 138 already? Because I really can't. And Stephanie's already joining us from Idaho, and she says, Happy Friday. But back to the question that I asked earlier, did you know that your money can disappear in a snap? And no worries, we've got a special guest today joining us. And no, it's not Christine because, we congratulated her recently on her new job, but she'll be back April the 5th, I think it is, whatever the first Friday in April is. And Carol is joining us from YouTube. Thank you, Carol, for joining us from YouTube. By the way, my LinkedIn friends, lately the comments have not been showing up on LinkedIn until after the program has been over. So I would encourage you, if you're having problems, because a lot of you call me and say, or message me and say, I commented, but you didn't read it. It's not you. It's me. Well, it's not me. It's LinkedIn. Go to the YouTube channel. Better yet, just go to the YouTube channel anyway. So today, joining me on the Friday Fruadster, who are you?
Who am I? I have no idea who I am anymore. I'm Thomas Mullenix with Revision Management Consulting, but also even bigger today, the creator of IA Stream, the internal audit platform for all internal audit shops. And yes, I am fully aware that cash can
now
be
that
gone that
sounds
quick.
interesting.
I don't know about everybody else, but I'm very aware that cash can be gone in a snap because I have 2 kids and I'm married. So I have seen cash just go immediately.
It evaporates just like that. So listen, Thomas, a lot of us have been kind of just poor in life. Not right. Not everybody was born rich. So a lot of us have had to struggle, and a lot of us have been poor in life, and a lot of us have had to maybe take subsidies from agencies or maybe visit shelters for food at some point because life is not always sunshine and roses. As a matter of fact, right now, a lot of people are facing a hard time, and the economy is not looking so great. So have you ever been in those situations where you've had to reach out to other people for a helping hand?
So never on a government program, but there has been a time where my family was in need, and we reached out to my local church, and they provided some assistance. So yeah, I've had that instance one time in my life. Thankfully, it's just been the one time. But yeah, you're right. I see it constantly with people in need.
Yeah, and I find that usually when you go to your community, especially your church, you can really get a lot of help. I've faced some of those situations too. I've never had to get government sponsored benefits either. But I will say I am glad that we have those things available for people when they need them. And I also think that it's just a shame when people take advantage of those programs. And you hear about those frauds quite often because remember, we've had some on this show where we've talked about the one that I really remember is the food program where they were getting money from the government, were claiming that they were helping about 1,000 children per month. And when they looked up the address where the services were being performed, it was a 2-bedroom apartment with like no kitchen equipment or anything like that. That's one that really kind of sticks out in my head, you know?
Well, and the last one that I was on that I ended up having to cut out because of internet issues, where they're supposed to be helping people who are struggling to pay their mortgage, and they're getting into problems with property taxes and
Yeah.
some of that. And instead of helping them, they're taking advantage of them and stealing their houses. Yeah, there's fraud rampant and all. And but sometimes it's hard to prove when someone needs help and when someone's scamming, or vice versa. When someone says they're helping, you have to have a lot of controls and oversight in place to prevent that stuff, from fraud from happening.
Yeah, I almost forgot about the one you just mentioned, and I shouldn't have forgotten about it. That was just 2 weeks ago, but it just goes to show you how our memories are. So yeah, I mean, I'm really, really glad that these types of programs are available to help people when
Mhm.
they need them the most. Now, that brings us to our story today. Are you familiar with the food stamp program?
I am a little bit. In a past life, I worked for a very large pharmacy chain as a store manager, and so you would have people come in with
Mm.
various, food stamp cards and that sort of thing to buy stuff there in the store. So yeah, I'm fairly familiar with it.
Yeah, so back in the day, it was pretty interesting because it was called the food stamp program because you actually got stamps and you would have to
Right.
tear those stamps off when you got to the store. So let me explain to people what that is, just in case some people don't know. So in the US, they had this program that was called the food stamp program, and it was for individuals who needed money for food. The way the program worked was that there were certain eligibility requirements, like you had to have below a certain income. Even if you had children, you would get more benefits, and you got a certain amount of money per month. So then they migrated from the stamps to actual money, but the money color, it was a different size, all kinds of stuff. So you actually had physical money. Now it is an actual card, and it's called the SNAP program, and I've just forgotten what SNAP stands for. But now it's called the SNAP program, and you get a card. And in order to use that card, again, you have to have a certain income to prove that you're in need. But there's also only certain things that you can buy at the
Mhm.
store with that card.
That was the one complaint that I had personally whenever I was working for the pharmacy. They didn't have as many restrictions on that card at the time, and some of the stuff that they were paying for, it rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, my tax money is paying for what now? So I admit I had a little bit of that, in me as I was dealing with that, but it does seem like they've restricted it, but it seems like they've tried to improve it where it's covering what people need and not necessarily covering stuff that um, are not necessarily needs. I'll just put it that way. But it's called the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, is what SNAP stands for. Oh, yep, there
There
we
you
go.
go.
Michael beat
Yep.
me.
Thank you very much, Michael. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And then Stephanie says that her mom and I, her, my mom and I were on food stamps when I was a kid with actual stamps. Yes. And then this LinkedIn user, it actually did not show up on my LinkedIn screen. So I have no idea who this is. Says had to stand in line in downtown LA welfare office to get the stamps. Yeah. So when I was growing up, when I was a kid, my great aunt, she was in her 80s. She was on the program, and well before the stamps, they actually gave you food. You had to go to a central location, and they would give you things like macaroni and cheese, and then these big blocks of cheese and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
It was an interesting experience, and so they migrated from actually handling food to doing stamps to then having their own money. Now, merchants. Oh, well, hold on. Before I go there, also, when I was a kid, you would see very interesting things like people would exchange money for the stamps. So, say, for example, if you had someone who was a heavy chain smoker, you could not buy cigarettes with the stamps, which makes sense, right? It's for food.
Yep.
So, what they would do is they would take, say, $100 in the stamps and they would sell it for $50 because they just wanted the money. Because to them, it was To some people, not to them. To some people, it was almost like free money. This is abuse of the program. So they would get cash for the actual money. Now, you would think that now that everything is on the debit card, that you can't do that. But people who want to steal will find creative ways to steal. And see, somebody gets it. Government cheese and bologna. Yeah, that's what it was. That's literally what it was back in the day. You used to have to go and pick it up. Yeah. Oh boy. And I'm trying to look and see if I can tell who that is that said that one, but some of the comments aren't coming through on LinkedIn. So, like I said before, if you find that you're having problems commenting on LinkedIn, go over to my YouTube channel. It's That Audit Guy and then the number 1. That's the best way to find me. Besides, I need more subscribers over there. The YouTube channel has really been getting a lot of traction lately. Like I don't know. People are going back and watching really old episodes, and it kind of warms my heart.
Or they're trying to figure out how to commit fraud, and they're looking to see who got caught and how they got caught. So they're trying to use it as education, right? I will give you a plug. I will give you a plug. Yeah, go over to YouTube and subscribe to That Audit Guy 1. Because my son, who is 15 and has a channel just for gymnastics, has more subscribers than That Audit Guy. That's wrong. So go over there and hit that subscribe button for Rob here, would you?
Okay. So now let's get really close to what today's story is about. So, in order to accept SNAP benefits at your store, there's a lot of things that you have to do as a merchant. Now, some of those are you have to be authorized by the U.S. Department of Agriculture to accept benefits. You have to follow specific guidelines to be in that program. One of those being you cannot exchange SNAP benefits for cash or non-food items. You're also required to maintain accurate records to comply with the program. So now, eligible food items include fruits, vegetables, meat, dairy, bread, and non-alcoholic beverages. Non-food items like pet food, vitamins, and hot prepared food items are not eligible. In other words, items must be meant for human consumption, and they must be uncooked or cold in order to be purchased with SNAP benefits. So that's the criteria to get into the plan. And that's right, Marsha. No cigarettes either. Okay.
No cigarettes,
So,
no alcohol. I'm surprised that soda is still allowed, to be honest. I keep waiting for soda to get cut out, but the rest of it makes sense though, right?
yeah, that is an odd one. That's an extremely odd one. So now, if I have a retail store and I'm selling things, I have to comply with all of those guidelines. And they are a little bit more stringent than that. And if we have time, we might dig into a few of the details. But with that said, it gets us to our story for today. And you guys want to stick around to the end because there's a really big surprise towards the end of this story. So now recently, the owner of a meat market in Atlanta pleaded guilty to, I got to pause before I even say this number because this is a lot. This is a big number. $10 million food stamp fraud scheme. $10 million. Okay, so Thomas, here's what I want to do. I want to see if anyone can guess what kind of scheme it was for $10 million in food stamps. And since there's a delay, just a small delay on LinkedIn, I want to give you the opportunity here to talk about the IA Stream software, which is the best software for audit departments. Because what I want to do is see if anyone can guess what they did in order to get $10 million to defraud the SNAP food benefits program. And so while you're doing that, that'll give some people to type in their guesses, and then we'll come back and give them the rest of the story because there is a big surprise as to what happened to one of the people who allegedly committed this fraud. So let's talk about IA Stream for a minute.
Yeah, so I was actually looking up some stats on Snap, so I'll look it up here in a minute. But yeah, so IA Stream, look, I've been doing internal audit and SOX work for 17 years now, and so many internal audit leaders have asked, "Hey, what software is out there that you recommend?" Right now, I'm using Excel and Word, and that's all I'm using. And my answer was always none of them. They were always either overpriced or they had so many bells and whistles that it just didn't make it efficient. So this morning, I announced the release of IA Stream, and it's an internal audit platform where you can have your control matrix in. It can be SOX and non-SOX. You can test controls. You can monitor your audit plan. You can see your audit schedule for the entire year once it's put in. It's got interactive dashboards. You can send requests. They're in the platform. You can actually upload the support into the platform as well. So everything is encompassed right there in IA Stream. You can manage it. You can hit a button and get reports out of it. So you can report to your audit committee. You can report to management as well. I tried to make it very simple, but also a complete internal audit package. And the introductory price right now is a very simple annual $7,500 fee. No user license fees, unlimited user license, no other little add-on fees, just one flat annual fee, because I wanted to make it affordable for anyone, regardless of your budget size.
Wow. So I just heard audit software, game changing audit software for one flat fee.
Fee, not free, fee.
for one flat fee per year that allows you to manage your audit projects. That sounds great.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I wanted to make it as simple as possible because I'm using it for my clients. So I didn't want to have to learn a whole new software to be able to do it. So I wanted to make it simple, but also where you could pull up your dashboard and see exactly what the entire audit plan looks like very, very quickly. Someone quoted, "It's so easy, even your CFO will use it."
Oh, and here's the other thing. If you all decide to contact Thomas, tell him that you heard about it on this show so that he can, like give me a pat of thanks or something. So now we've got some guesses coming in. Now, Marnie, you're gonna have to tell me about this. Wasn't it a Minnesota couple that bought a yacht in Florida or something? No, I hadn't heard about that one, but I really would like to. Now,
Interesting.
someone says, were they charging for products and giving lesser customers cash, then deducting the cost of the products that were never sold? And that's Stephanie. Okay, close. That was a part of it, but there was more too, which is why this one is so weird. Okay, somebody else said customers, lesser amount of cash, not lesser customers. Well, that was Stephanie again, clarifying. I knew what you meant though. Okay, that's pretty close, but there was some other things that were in the mix that made you go like, what in the world were they thinking and or doing? Okay, so here's the chronology of events. In 2014, this gentleman enrolled his meat market called Big Daddy's Discount Meats as a swap retailer, as a SNAP retailer, sorry. Big Daddy's Discount Meats. From 2015 to 2020, he loaned his EBT terminal, the credit card terminal, to two stores, one called Food World, the other called Big Brother's Mini Supermarket. Now, this is against SNAP rules. You can't loan your terminal to another store because that store may not be authorized. So that's one part of it. During this time, those stores made cash payments to customers in exchange for redeeming SNAP benefits at a reduced rate. So, for example, if my card had $100 on it, they would give me cash of $50 and then take the $100 and mark that as a sale. So exchanging the benefits for cash, which we know is illegal. So between giving his terminal to other stores, but then also, like Stephanie said, giving cash for the benefits, they racked up a total of about $10 million in that 5-year period.
Man, how many? So yes, the person who loaned the terminal is in the wrong. The two businesses that were using it were in the wrong. But if you're telling me that was $2 million a year that they were stealing with this, that's a lot of individuals who are basically committing this fraud as well and getting this cash. There's a lot of people involved with that. That's amazing that that many people could be involved and they got away with it for as long as they did.
Yeah. Well, and it gets even more interesting in my opinion because certain things are actually blocked on the cards. You can't purchase them all together. And it's
Mhm.
my understanding that cash back is also something that is blocked on the card. So you can't go in and get cash with like a PIN number with your ATM card. So I'm
Right.
trying to figure out how in the world did they do it and how did it get caught? I'm assuming that it got caught through data analytics because you should be able to see using level 3 credit card data what purchases were made and you could spot and identify the illegal purchases unless the government system is not that sophisticated because how in the world did they get away with it?
Yeah. My first instinct is, yeah, the government system isn't sophisticated enough to do what it's supposed to do. Um, I mean, that would be my initial thought.
Yeah. So now, one of the co-conspirators, one of the individuals that received the terminal, he pleaded guilty and he received, I think, 3 years in prison and restitution of $3 million. And he pleaded guilty to wire fraud and I can't see the other one right now, wire fraud and something else. Um, and so his restitution amount is $3 million per year. The owner
Okay.
of Big Daddy Discount Meats, however, had other thoughts in mind for himself.
Did he go to Disney?
He did not go to Disney. Where he went was somewhere even more interesting, and how he did it was even more interesting. So in January of 2021, he was arrested and later released on bond. But late 2022, he fled the US and became a fugitive. First, he went to Mexico. Then in June of 2023, foreign authorities apprehended him in Istanbul, Turkey, with a fake Mexico passport.
Is is Turkey a non-extraditing country? Do you know? I don't think it is.
It is not a non-extraditing country, so Homeland Security and its worldwide network of affiliates were able to apprehend him in
Mhm.
Turkey.
That's an interesting one, right? Like, why do you go from? And it says here he actually went from Cancun, Mexico, to Istanbul, Turkey. I don't know. Out of all the places in the world to go, Istanbul is not the like top of my list to flee to. That's an interesting choice. But another like point with this, talking about kind of where the government failed, the fact that he was on bond from January of 2021 to late 2022. So it was essentially 2 years that he was out on bond before having to go through the prosecution process. That's a long time between committing the crime, getting caught for the crime, and actually, having to go to court about it. That's insane to me. I mean, you're almost asking them to run at that point.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So in thinking about this one, here are a couple of things that ran through my mind. So one of the first things that ran through my mind, $10 million. So now, with that amount of money, um, and understanding that they broke the rules to get that amount of money. However, the amount was a legitimate amount that the government had uh, earmarked for benefits. So for
Mhm.
that amount of money, couldn't you have just opened up a legitimate business and sold people actual goods. No, I'm serious. That, like, it's not like it was $100,000 where it was like too much to possibly start a business. We're talking $10 million.
Yeah, there's some. It's one of those where someone commits a crime, they get away with it. So let's go ahead and keep doing more crime. Like, yeah, why not start doing something legitimate? Unless you think I don't know, it makes no sense to me. It's especially when it's getting that big. Now, for those that are listening, whether they're or watching, whether they're here in the United States or overseas, I looked it up, and in 2022, the U.S. government had 113.9 billion dollars paid out through the SNAP program, and the administrative expenses was 5.5 billion. So $10 million over a 5-year period is nothing when it comes to the budget of this. But it's still it's insane that $10 million can walk out, or 2 million a year, and they don't see. Yes, it was legitimately approved, but they don't see that it's being spent wrong. And if 2 million a year was being spent wrong, how much more of that 113 billion is not being used correctly? That's where the numbers start going in my mind with it.
Yeah, yeah. Because this was just one merchant in the Atlanta area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One,
But yeah,
one
so
merchant in the Atlanta area, and what if they were in New York or LA or Houston, Chicago, one of the big four, cities? That can add up quick. Maybe I'm in the wrong
yeah,
business.
yeah. Well, and so then the other thought though that came to mind too is, for all the people that abuse the program. So one thing I'm wondering is, how many people could that have been in order for it to be $10 million? Because that's a substantial amount of people. And so now, what happens to those people? I am assuming that their benefits will be cut off and taken away from them. And so, what if those people now have families? If they aren't single people, now because of those actions, their whole family could now have benefits taken away.
And that's the age old story, right? Do you penalize the individual where it ends up penalizing the entire family? Like, how do you address it? And I don't know if there's an easy answer there, right? Because yeah, if they have those benefits, I wouldn't say it's guaranteed, but odds are they have some kind of dependents that are also relying on those benefits as well. So yeah, I don't think there's an easy answer as far as how to fight that, and how to penalize someone for it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it would be
That
easy to
that's
say, they committed the crime, they should have it cut off. But according to this other research I just found, roughly 12.9 million people are on SNAP, receive SNAP benefits in the United States. So I mean, 12.9 million people, that's quite a few people that are on that, that help.
wait, 12.9 total people, and this one fraud alone was $10 million. So dollars to people, that's wow.
12.9 million people, but then it's paid out. How many did I say? A lot of billions of dollars are paid out. I lost that number now,
Yeah, yeah.
but you're right. Yeah, it's that's quite a few people it could help out. It's easy to chop it up to typical government waste, but these are individual people who are doing it. But I guess on the even more into that though, I would almost want to see a study of people who commit this type of crime. Yeah, and if you're getting a SNAP card for a certain amount of dollars and you're selling it, or using it for what it's not supposed to be for, you're doing that, right? I'm real curious if there's a research out there to say, what is it normally like whenever they commit this kind of fraud, what are they committing it to buy? And is there a way to tackle that problem, to be able to take away that temptation to misuse it? But that might
Yeah.
be a bigger issue than than anything.
Yeah, that is a good question. I can say anecdotally, right? Anecdotally, what I would always see is that it was being done for cash because they wanted the cash. And oftentimes they wanted the cash because they wanted alcohol or cigarettes or something not on the list. In other instances, people wanted the cash to try and pay rent or to pay a light bill or something like that, and they would forego eating for
Yeah.
something else. Now, again, still illegal and still wrong. I actually worked back in the day, worked for Winn Dixie as an auditor, and we would go out and audit the retail locations. And I think it was around the time when we had done away with the actual cash and were going to the card, I believe, because I remember seeing both. And
Yeah.
we were very stringent. Our system would not allow you to purchase certain things using that type of money, but you could go to almost any neighborhood where there was someone who had the stamps or the money, and they would say, hey, give me $20 cash, I'll give you a $50 card or stamp.
Yeah.
So it happens everywhere. But to your point, what is, bless you, what is the real root cause? What is the problem? What are they buying um in order to commit that fraud? So yeah.
But we also saw whenever the government was sending out the checks in the mail, whenever right after COVID and at the end of COVID and all of that, they were sending out stimulus checks and helping people out. It was supposed to be for rent, food, necessities. But what were a lot of people doing? Going out and buying a new TV, renting a car, some of those kinds of things. So I think in the end, people are going to spend money on what they want to spend money on, right? And regardless of what it's intended for, and they're going to find ways to turn it into cash to buy, whether it's drugs, cigarettes, alcohol, a new TV, whatever. And if there's a will, there's a way. Unfortunately.
Very true. And then Stephanie brings up a good point. She said, I'm guessing the people doing bad things with the benefit probably aren't that smart. It only hurts those using the benefit in good faith. And well, and what's interesting too is I can remember growing up seeing people who quote unquote qualified for the program but didn't necessarily
Mhm.
need it, and they would still get it, and they would literally, as soon as they got the benefits, they would say, here, do you want to buy this? They would be trying to sell it to someone. So you might have a small section of people who are qualified for it but really don't need it and get it just to try to convert it to cash as some sort of quote unquote additional income.
Yeah. Yeah, the most common that I've seen actually is a little bit on the flip side of that, where their income is just above the level that qualifies. They really need the help, but their income is just and I've had a time or two in my life where we were facing that, where we were making too much to qualify for certain benefits, but we needed the help with the benefits, and it just in those kind of lines are murky and very difficult sometimes as well. But at the same time, I acknowledge you have to draw the line somewhere, right? You have to identify some line. But yeah, it can be challenged. Oh, put up that one.
Ooh, yeah. Now, Stephanie, I think this is Stephanie said, I've heard some women leaving the baby daddy off the birth certificate to get more benefits. Yeah, yeah, that is Stephanie. Yeah, I've heard of that too. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's not getting married, so that way you're single to be able to get benefits because you're single or a single parent. Or I've seen
Mm.
there's all types of fraud like that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so today what we're talking about is a young man who allegedly abused the SNAP food program. He received a terminal to process transactions at his retail location, then loaned those terminals out to other organizations that were not qualified for the program. And then they actually violated program rules because they were exchanging cash for program benefits, which is illegal. The program should be used to purchase food items. And we ran through what some of those food items were earlier, so we won't do that again. And over a span of about 5 years, they racked up about $10 million. One individual has already been sentenced to 3 years, and he has to pay $3 million in restitution. And The other individual, I actually need to look this up because he was scheduled to be sentenced on January 29th of this year. So I was trying to find it and I couldn't find the most recent. So maybe when we start doing updates to the stories that we have here, that'll be one of our update episodes. So
Do
yeah,
you?
Marsha says
So
people
hold up.
find ways to beat the system.
So this is episode 138. Are you going to do an update episode soon? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that at some point we'll have to we got to go back through some of the ones we've done and just do update episodes. I mean, it's there's no way we cannot do that. You know,
I don't know. It might make us mad.
I
What? This one got sentenced for a year and a half. This one got sentenced for 10. What? So yeah, I can see that. I want to be on that show.
it will make us mad. Yeah, I have an Excel listing of all of the episodes and the links that I used and the news articles, and it's like, whoa. And I started looking at it recently, thinking to myself, this has literally been 138 episodes. And for those who've been with us for a very long time, when we first started out, we would do two news stories per show, and that got to be a bit much. So
Yeah,
literally, we've covered more than 138 different stories.
that's crazy. Yeah, I remember doing two. And we would end up talking long on the first one and be like, well, let's just cut it short. Or we start trying to talk about the second one and we dragged like an hour and a half conversation.
Yeah, so I just figured one, and if it lasts 30 minutes, great. If it lasts an hour, great.
Yep.
We have some good content on YouTube for people to discuss and continue the conversation. Well, on LinkedIn too. Although, as Clarence said, LinkedIn is acting funny on us today. So, you know, all right, people. So, episode 138, Money Disappears in a Snap. Hopefully, people actually got that, once we got into the story. You know, coming up with the titles is fun for me. Let's see. Christine will be back soon on April the 5th, she's saying. So next week, we'll find other special guests to bring on. Who knows? Thomas might come back next week too.
Never know. Never know. I will say, that's Good Friday. So we'll see how many are actually on and watching. But Rob, I believe about a week later, you and I might be hanging out together in Houston, aren't we?
Oh, we might at the IIA conference.
So if you want to, if you actually want to see us in person, or Rob at least, nobody wants to see me in person, but
I was about to
come
say no
by
one wants to see me.
Yeah, but come on by and say hello at the Houston IIA conference. I'm thinking about heading over to the GRC conference in August. That's over in Austin. That's a ISACA and IIA combined conference, but we'll see what happens. But um,
Oh yeah, I
what's
almost
what's
forgot
what's
about that one. That's a good
right?
conference. I've actually presented at that conference before.
So you just
Which
gained a
reminds me,
subscriber.
nice. Which reminds me,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
anyone needs any audit training services, you can go to my website. Most of my training catalog is up on the website. And I mean, come on, you can get some good audit training. Just go over to the website. But seriously, too, if you would like CPE for listening to a podcast, go over to my website too. We're quickly uploading episodes of this podcast as well as the Audit Bites podcast, and the rates are very reasonable. I think the last episode of Audit Bites is on my website for sale as a 30-minute CPE for something like $3.99. It's a cup of coffee. But also, here's the other thing. Next week, Audit Bites podcast. It's usually on Tuesdays at 11:15 p.m. But I got to do something on Tuesday next week. So next week it's Monday, and it's later in the day because I'm gonna be in a different time zone. But you'll like this one because it's on the art of storytelling for auditors. We got to learn the art of storytelling. Everybody loves
I
a
like
good
it.
story, and Yeah, research tells us that people actually remember more when you tell them a story, but they're also more engaged and they're also more apt to act when you tell them a story. And why don't we use storytelling more? I didn't realize that that's what I was doing all these years until some people pointed it out. I was like, oh, I guess I do that, huh? I guess that's what happens when
There's
you grow
a
up
real
poor. No, I'm saying okay. No, no, seriously. That's what happens when you grow up poor and you only had 3 channels to look at, and TV turned off at 10 o'clock at night. You had to use your
I remember that.
imagination a lot, right?
Uh-huh. Yep, I
Exactly.
totally
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and there's a whole marketing program that's actually based off of storytelling. You tell your story, and you actually
Yeah.
market and sell through the art of storytelling. So yeah, that's totally legit. I get it.
I mean, what do you think I do on LinkedIn all the time?
You just make up stuff.
Okay, so I tell you what. So this past week I was in Indianapolis and I had this session. I forgot what it was titled now, but it was 2 hours of fraud and ethics. And I just told a bunch of stories because some of you who know me and know me well, you know that there was one part of my life where I experienced some really interesting things at one particular company, and you can't make this stuff up. So I just spent 2 hours running through a bunch of stories, and people were like, I can't believe that happened. And then I pointed them to publicly available news stories that corroborated what I
Yeah.
said. So you can't really make this stuff up. And they were like, whoa, you made ethics and fraud fun. But it was at
Wow.
my personal pain, my personal expense.
Uh-huh.
Right. But, you know, it is what it is. All right. All right. All right. All right. So, folks, thank you all for joining us this week. Be sure to tune in next week, every Friday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for other time zones, do your own calculations because accountants can't add. I mean,
Not without a calculator.
or a 10 key. Oh, sorry.
10 key calculator, Excel. Yeah, yeah. By the way,
I
I'm
just
married to
aged
a former
myself.
tax accountant, so I can say that.
So, all right, guys, we'll see you all next week. Thanks for joining.
See ya.